Mid-Ohio Valley Master Naturalist program held a presentation at the Vienna Public Library today. During the presentation, those present could learn how to join the program and how to become a Master Naturalist. According to program coordinator Emily Grafton, the Master Naturalist program works to provide help to those who are interested in getting back into nature. Grafton says the courses offer 64 credit hours on nature in West Virginia. Upon completing the courses, you will receive Master Naturalist certification in West Virginia. According to volunteer Adam Weaver, the state of West Virginia has a lot to offer on the nature side of things.
West Virginia is a state that has a lot of natural diversity, and it's one of the least developed states. We've got more trees in West Virginia than most states have, and we've got a lot of acreage to explore. And all across the state, you've got all sorts of plant diversity, animal diversity. Just alone, we've got over 90 species of reptiles and amphibians alone in the state.
One of the things you can do when you finish it, this program, is you can actually go out and do a lot of programs. Nature interpretation is an important part of the program. And if you complete the program, there's a good chance that certificate might, even if you wanted to work as, say, a seasonal naturalist at a state park.
Grafton adds that the program does presentations like these to let the public know that they are available. They plan to do a couple more presentations in Wood and Pleasants counties on future dates. The cost of the programs are $125 to cover all stipends for instructors and material costs.